We've been married 56 years. No, 54 years this December. You lose track after a while. We were in school. That's where I met him. He dropped out and joined the Marine Corps, and it was understood we would get married on his release from basic training. So he came back from California to Minnesota. We were married, and we left Minnesota that same day. So I gave up my apartment. We packed this little U-Haul trailer, and we were headed for his next duty station. And it was on our honeymoon that my husband first abused me. We were in Iowa. We were tired from the whole day's festivities and blah, blah, blah. And we went to have sexual intercourse, and as a result, I did not have an orgasm. So while he was on top of me, he started hitting me with his fists. And after he was, I guess, satisfied with his own anger or spent his own anger, he let me off the bed, and I ran into the bathroom and locked myself in. And I remember thinking to myself, this must be the way it is.
It seemed to me that it was a normal way to behave. I saw it growing up. I saw it as an adult.
Meanwhile, he's on the door banging, saying he's sorry, saying he'd never do it again. So I came out of the bathroom hoping it would never happen again, wanting to believe that.
So that's when it started, basically on our wedding day.
During the 20 years, there were times I alluded to it. That's something victims feel is shame, because one of the things you experience when you share it with somebody is, well, what did you do? Well, why did he hit you? Well, I thought if I know the answer to that question, I wouldn't be sharing this, but it left me feeling responsible. It felt feeling shameful and guilty. So over time, you learn you don't share it.
Oh yes, I told people that I was relatively close to, acquaintances, friends, family members. Church members knew about it, either by my own confession or seeing M'liss with bruises and broken glasses and different things that are characteristic of spousal abuse. And I talk to people partly out of shame and partly out of being proud of it. It was hard to tell which was which, but there were occasions that I could share my spouse abuse with men who were doing the same thing. And so there was kind of a brotherhood around the issue.
You know, if I shared with anyone, it wouldn't be to start out with, he beats me and knocks me about the head and shoulders and knocks me to the ground and kicks me. You don't go there right away. You just kind of stick your toe in the water and say, well, Chuck can get very angry.
One of the people that I shared with was the minister from my church, and his response was, well, whatever it takes to control her should be okay, just don't kill her.
It's a frightening thing for people who knew my husband to hear he's been abusive. It disrupts their impression of him because the abuse was secret. It was done behind doors, which is a testimony to the fact that these perpetrators can control the behavior. My husband was never abusive in front of anybody else.
I had heard by the grapevine and some of my peers that it was possible to be arrested or taken to court for family violence.
And I had determined the next time Chuck was abusive, I would charge him. So the next day I went to the police station and met a policeman coming down the hall, and I said, my husband beat me up last night. And his first question was, well, why does he do that? And I thought, God, if I knew that, I wouldn't be here. And he said, well, listen, can you come back later? We're changing shifts and rearranging furniture right now.
I was sitting in the chair there in the corner, and that's been 30 some odd years ago, almost 35 years ago. And I was in total and complete disbelief.
And he jumped out of the chair, ran down to the head of the stairs and shouted down to our oldest daughter, your mother has charged me with assault and I'm leaving. And she came tearing up the stairs, Daddy, don't go, don't go. Then he went down the hall to tell our other daughter, Rachel, the middle daughter, I'm leaving, your mother has charged me. And she came running out and said, Daddy, you have it coming. You can't go around hitting people.
It was the most shocking event I've ever had in my entire life, before or since.
It was frightening for the next month till the court date actually came up. It was a roller coaster ride, and we managed to survive, but at one point he loaded a Winchester rifle and brought it in the bedroom. It was the night before we were to go to court, and said, I'm going to kill myself. I just can't go through with this. And all I could do was sit there. I was sitting on the bed reading and just quietly say, I know it's going to be okay. I know it's going to be okay. Just hold off, hold off.
I felt like this is not where I am supposed to be. These people in this group are violent. And at that particular moment in time, I didn't consider myself as violent as the other participants in this introductory therapeutic group. After several months, I was able to accept that fact that I was an abuser and that I needed to be in this therapy program. And the best thing for me to do was to turn to and start applying myself. Through all of this, there was only a few, fewer than a handful that really supported my effort in trying to rehabilitate and keep my family together. And one of the things that people that are trying to recover frequently cannot expect long-term support from your family and friends. It was difficult to accept that they weren't going to be there to support me. There's people out there that, well, you're a spouse abuser. I had a therapist, a licensed therapist, tell me one time that those of us who had been convicted of family violence should be lined up against the wall and shot. That the potential for recovery for some people is zero. Well, they're wrong.
The wonderful gift of being human is we can change. And we lose sight of that at times with a perpetrator. We think, well, he's just a bully, which at some level, yes, he is a big bully, but they're still human and they can change because they're victims too.
Well, as it turned out, it was one of the greatest things that ever happened to me. It was a blessing to our relationship, and it was a blessing to my relationship with my children. I'm every day of my life, I'm involved in reflection on my own behavior, what I say, what I do, how I think and how I regard people, particularly M'liss, and those who I consider to be friends. It's a daily challenge.
All those good things that you want from the beginning have slowly worked into our relationship. It's a shame it took all these years, but it was worth the stay. And if I personally had to do it over and pay the prices I've paid, I would. So there's hope, but it's in our own hands.
I don't advocate that families stay together, But if everybody wants to, make responsible choices, get involved, find out what's out there. Be there for yourself as a perpetrator, or be there for yourself as a victim.
Yeah, that's the reason to seek help, is for yourself.